Hey guys, Andrea here at GDC 2014. I'm with Clive from Creative Assembly, and we're here to talk about Alien Isolation. We just saw a mammoth of a presentation on your guys' design inspiration and some of the tech behind the animation used in the game, and I thought it was really intriguing listening to you talk about how you decided to create the alien, the big enemy in the game. What were some of the first things that you guys decided this is really important for us to maintain in designing this creature?
Well, one of the earliest things we discovered was how people think about the alien and what they think its qualities are very much from as much from their imagination as they are from the film. The film is wonderfully crafted, but the alien's very rarely on screen, and when it is, it's a very short burst. So people extrapolated all these kind of amazing qualities of speed, aggression, skill, this perfect hunter, from a very well created film where a lot of those ideas were kind of handed to you through brilliant cinematic techniques, foreshadowing and very clever cuts and camera angles. So we knew that by trying to deliver the experience of being against that alien, we call them the alien, we were going to have a really tough job because we weren't going to have those kind of cinematic techniques of being able to control how long the player could see the alien for, or how we could hide a lot of the detail of the alien by using close-up camera shots. So we had to do an enormous amount of work in figuring out how to create a living creature. We call it a living creature because obviously if we can't control how long the player looks at him, or when the player sees it, or what the alien is doing when the player sees it first appear, he had to be on camera all the time and looking as good and delivering all of the qualities that the audience expect him to have. So it was immediately obvious he had to be unscripted. He had to be, obviously in the games industry we use the word dynamic a lot, but he had to be completely driven by moment to moment, very rapid decision making on real information, what we call them senses. So he's gathering information about the world around him, what he's hearing, seeing, where you might be, and he's making decisions about what hunting tactics or approach he's going to take on that moment-to-moment information. So whenever the player sees him, he's always looking good, he's always looking like the alien, being purposeful, driven to do what he's doing. And the sort of, it's 3.5 years of really hard work going into that. It's very complex AI. And because we want him to be really unpredictable, so we want the relationship between the player and the alien to feel like, I'm genuinely being hunted by this living creature, and he's dangerous and lethal, and my reaction to him is instinctive, rather than me trying to figure out patrol patterns or figure out how he works or what the rule sets are in the script. We want you to feel like you are making decisions based on an urgent sense of self-preservation.
It sounds incredibly complicated.
Yeah, it is.
So one of the things I thought was really interesting when you were talking about, this complex AI was that not only is it unpredictable, but the alien will learn and evolve based off the actions that you have in the game. What does this mean for the player?
Well, we're very careful whenever people say AI learns, it can always be a little bit misleading. He has a very, very complex set of behaviors, and that set of behaviors covers a lot of different possibilities. So at the start of the game, the player is very limited in what they know, what they can do, and we expect the player to learn during the game how to survive better, how to use the environment. They find objects in the environment they might be able to craft into something else. And so as the player tries different tactics or tries different survival techniques, the alien will visibly adapt and change. And the way that he does that is that you'll try a tactic or you'll try a particular tool or device, and he wouldn't have seen it before, so he will react accordingly. But once he may have seen it once or twice, the player can't rely on the fact that as a scripted entity that he would never learn, he would never realise that he shouldn't go near that anymore. Whereas what we wanted was an adaptive AI, is probably a better word, where he would get exposed to a particular thing the player was doing, and after a short period of time he would do something different.
Ellen Ripley is one of the most iconic female heroines or heroes in film history ever, and I feel very comfortable saying that. But we don't know anything really about her daughter, Amanda. What can you tell me about who she is as a character and what we can expect to see from her in this game?
So she was the one exception to the rule. We wanted to we didn't want to revise any of the history of the IP. We don't want to retcon any of the previous history or take it in a new direction. We want to find a space in the Alien story where nobody had been before. So we were going to tell a story about a series of events which would be great to add to the expanded universe, like, oh, that's what happened here and here, but the original story would be unaffected. And that was really important to us because we're fans of the series, right? So we didn't want to change anything. And when you were looking for some story, some big gap to tell that story, there's between the first film and the second film, there's 60 years of time where nothing happens. So then Nostromo disappears, just gone, and 60 years pass, and then when she's found again, Ellen Ripley, they have a big tribunal where they explain the ship was incredibly expensive, and the company really cares where it went. You say, well, what happened? Somebody must have gone looking for it, right? So when that opportunity comes for her to find out what happened, the black box from the Nostromo is discovered, and the company says, well, you can finally have the answers that you're looking for. Of course she goes. And so she was a really interesting character for us because we know she exists. We know that, and this is one of my favourite stories about the whole thing, is the character who tells us about Ellen Ripley's daughter Amanda, is Burke. And Burke is, by anybody's description, not the most truthful individual in the world. And he basically gets a picture of an old woman and shows it to Ellen Ripley and says, this is your daughter, she grew old and died. There's nothing for you to stay here for. You're going to come with the Marines and we're going to go and look for the colony at Hadley's Hope. And of course, you go, well, we later find out that he's really would say anything to get her to go. So even if she did grow old and die, and she may do, we don't really answer that necessarily. What happened to her? What happened to her and that all this time? So it's a very interesting story. I think it's a really interesting what if. What happened when people went looking for Nostromo, and what the hell did they find, and why, when she came out of hypersleep, had nobody ever heard of what happened to them? So it's quite a cool story, I think.
I'm definitely intrigued to learn more about her. So you mentioned that you guys have been working on this for over 3 years. So you obviously saw, what happened with Alien Colonial Marines. At any point were you guys shaken by that? Did it kind of like send waves through your development team going, oh no, what does that mean for us?
Well, actually, the funny thing is that it never occurred to us that we would stop doing what we were doing. We were very into what we were doing, but also very confident that we had something special. So when we looked at that situation, what first really struck us the most was if people were having that kind of strength of reaction, that passion, then clearly people still really care about the IP, right? So there is an audience for this. There are people that will be really into this experience. So even though it's a 35-year-old film, there are people who are still really into that idea. So we actually walked away with it with a kind of sense of positive reinforcement because people still cared about it, but also we understood the level, the standard that people would hold the game to. They have very high expectations of what this experience should be like. So that was great for us because it confirmed for us that the level with which we were taking the games seriously and how hard we were working on it was valid.
Well, I could ask you a bunch more questions, but to end with, what is the one thing that you really want to communicate to fans of Aliens that are maybe a little hesitant to revisit after, maybe having a bad experience with the video game leg of the franchise? Not just Colonial Marines, but even previous games. What would you say to them to go, this is why you need to come back?
I would simply say that as a horror survival game, it's unique for the Alien IP to actually have a dedicated horror survival game. And I think everything that we wanted that game to be, because we're fans, they should take as a sign that it's going to be an experience which is crafted by people that genuinely care passionately about the IP, and particularly not about the IP simply because of the way the game looks, but we wanted the experience to feel like the original film. So we're really happy for people to get hands-on with it. We're going to a lot of different events over the next few months so people can get hands-on with it, because from our point of view, the best thing to say to that audience is pick up the control and play. The game speaks for itself. So that's really cool because it makes my life easier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And based off everything I saw today, it does seem like you guys are putting a lot of time into recreating that original experience. So, Clive, thank you so much for talking with me today, and we are definitely looking forward to seeing more of Alien Isolation. And we'll bring you guys lots more coverage from GDC right here on The Escapists.
We get to shut the book. Ripley.